The text is a transcript of a spiritual talk, likely from a video or audio recording, focusing on self-discovery and inner peace. It explores the internal conflict between logic and emotion, materialism and spirituality, suggesting that true fulfillment comes from integrating these aspects, not suppressing them. The speaker encourages mindful awareness as a path to overcoming internal division and finding a balanced, authentic self. Practical techniques like brief periods of quiet contemplation are offered to cultivate this inner awareness and achieve a more harmonious existence.
Okay, so picture this. You're standing on top of a mountain, vast sky, above bustling forest below.
Wow.
You're surrounded by beauty. But inside, there's this feeling of turmoil, almost like being divided.
Yeah, I get that.
It's this human experience that the speech, it was originally delivered in Mandarin Chinese. That's what it tackles head on.
Interesting. Using that contrast, outer world, inner world really brings out the theme, that finding balance.
Yeah, you got it. And in this deep dive, we're going to be exploring how the speech guides us towards that balance, specifically by seeing that we're not our thoughts, but the observer of them. Sounds kind of deep, huh?
It is. It's a concept that a lot of philosophical and meditative traditions explore.
Right.
That idea that just having a little distance between yourself and that constant stream of thoughts can give you peace and freedom.
I like that. So the speech starts off, points out the tension between science and art, arguing that, we prioritize logic and science, and we kind of leave art and the soul behind. I'm curious, do you ever feel pulled between practicality and your creative or spiritual side?
I think that's a struggle for a lot of people today, especially with always being told to value productivity, achievement above all else.
Yeah.
But this speech reminds us that we're not just machines, right? We have hearts and souls that need to be nurtured too.
Absolutely. And the speaker uses this really cool analogy of the two hemispheres of the brain to show this, right? They talk about logic and emotion as being like complementary forces, like day and night or sky and earth. I love that.
Yeah.
It's very visual.
Powerful image. Because it reminds us that both sides of ourselves, meant to work in harmony, not against each other.
Right.
When you neglect one side, you create this imbalance.
And it doesn't just stay at that abstract level either. It gives some really, I found them poignant examples of this imbalance in our lives. Like, we build cities that reach for the sky but lack, the feeling of an inner home. Or we, try to explore outer space while feeling lost in our own internal space.
It's so relatable.
Right.
I think, many people, they achieve external success, but still feel like something's missing.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on. The speech then goes into relationships.
Okay.
And this is where things got really interesting for me, because it brings up criticism and praise. And think about it. Do those external judgments really affect us? Or are they just mirroring our own insecurities? What do you think?
That's a good question to ask yourself.
Right.
It seems like the speech is saying that if you were truly secure with yourself, criticism wouldn't sting and praise wouldn't inflate you. It'd just be bouncing off your true self.
That's it. And to really emphasize this point, it uses this just beautiful analogy of a blooming lotus.
Oh, I love that part.
It simply exists and it radiates beauty without, trying to own the pond or needing admiration from the other plants around it. It's a stark contrast to our human kind of need to grasp and control, I think.
I think that really struck me. It reminds us that we don't need to strive for external validation.
Right.
You can just bloom where you are,
I love that. Bloom where you are.
Just focus on cultivating your inner beauty rather than seeking approval.
I love that. That's a beautiful way to put it. So then the speech goes on to talk about meditation as a way to cultivate, this inner peace and awareness.
Sure.
But I know some people are probably listening thinking, meditation, I am way too busy for that.
Oh yeah, I get that. It feels impossible sometimes to slow down.
But what I thought was interesting was that the speech addresses this, head on.
Okay.
It suggests that even small pauses during the day can be really powerful, like 10 seconds here, 10 seconds there.
Right.
It's more about just incorporating small moments of awareness rather than needing hours and hours of formal meditation. So it's like, instead of being overwhelmed by this idea of meditation, we can start with these micro moments of mindfulness.
Yeah, exactly. Using those 10 seconds to just notice your breath, or even just the sensations in your body.
Right.
It's all about bringing that attention to the present moment.
Yeah.
Even if it's just for a few breaths.
That sounds much more manageable than what I thought meditation was.
Right.
I'm already feeling a bit more relaxed just thinking about it.
Good.
So the speech gives another really strong image to help us visualize this. A stone sinking to the bottom of the water.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
It represents that stillness we can find inside of ourselves amidst all the chaos of life.
Right. It's so simple, but so effective. Just imagine that stone dropping down, settling at the bottom, completely still.
Yeah.
You can access that same stillness within yourself.
So there's a question in this speech that I want to ask you.
Okay.
Who are you?
Ooh.
Are you your anxieties, your social roles, your past experiences?
That's a deep question.
It is.
It's like it's challenging us to look past all those labels.
Right.
And connect with that core essence. The part of you that exists beyond all the stories we create.
Right. And the speech describes awareness not as like this mystical state, but as simply the ability to observe our thoughts and feelings without judgment.
Right, and that's key.
Right.
It's not about emptying your mind or reaching some state of bliss.
Right.
It's just about creating that space to observe the show that's going on in your mind.
Yeah.
Without getting lost in the plot. The speech uses that analogy of watching a movie. I really like that.
Me too.
Creates a separation between you and your thoughts.
Right.
Makes it easier to just see them for what they are, just thoughts, not truth.
So the more we practice this observation, the more we can start to see that we have a choice in how we respond to our thoughts and that we don't have to be ruled by them.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so it's about being more aware of our thoughts so that we can choose how we react instead of just going into automatic mode.
Precisely. And that's where the speech starts to talk about the freedom
Right.
that comes from recognizing your true self. And that's reacting to situations with awareness, understanding others' emotions,
Yeah.
and ultimately choosing your response,
Yeah.
rather than being driven by those knee-jerk reactions.
That sounds amazing. But wouldn't that take a lot of self-awareness? Like, how do you even begin to develop that kind of detachment?
Well, it's a process for sure.
Right.
The speech acknowledges that it takes
Okay.
time and practice, but the key is to start small.
Right.
Like those little 10-second pauses we talked about,
Okay.
those can have a ripple effect, gradually shifting you from reacting
Yeah.
to a state of conscious choice.
So, okay. It's about building that awareness muscle through consistent practice,
Yeah.
starting with small, manageable steps. It's actually much more encouraging than I initially thought.
It is. It's not about being a meditation master overnight,
Right.
right? It's about starting where you are,
Right.
doing what you can manage,
Right.
and then building up from there.
This is making me think about how we approach personal growth in general. Like, we
Right.
always think it has to be this big all or nothing thing. Yeah, right.
But what if it's more about these subtle shifts? You know, this small but consistent things that build up over time.
Yeah, it's easy to get discouraged when you have these huge expectations.
Right.
But the speech seems to advocate for something more gentle, more sustainable. It focuses on gradual transformation rather than instant perfection.
Yeah, that's really resonating with me. It feels a lot more attainable. So we've talked about awareness, you know, those micro moments of mindfulness, and then the idea of observing our thoughts without judging them. It's a lot to think about, but I'm seeing how these pieces come together to create this inner peace, this sense of freedom.
Yeah, it's like you're starting to see a path, a way to navigate, all that complexity in our inner world.
Yeah.
To find that balance that the speech talks about. But remember, it's a journey, not a destination.
Right.
And there are going to be twists and turns along the way, ups
Yeah.
and downs.
Right.
The key is to keep moving forward, even if it's just one small step. Yeah, and maybe that's the biggest takeaway from this first part of the speech. That finding peace isn't about reaching some perfect state. It's about embracing the journey, imperfections, challenges, and all.
Yeah, beautifully said.
And trusting that every step is bringing us closer to that wholeness and freedom that we want.
That's a great place to pause.
Yeah.
When we come back, we'll explore how the speech builds on all of this.
Yeah.
And gives even more practical tools for cultivating awareness and navigating all of life's challenges with grace and wisdom.
Sounds good. I'm looking forward to it. Okay, so we were talking about cultivating awareness as this path to inner peace.
Right?
But I gotta say, I still find it kind of daunting, Like, where do we even start applying this to everyday life?
Well, the speech, it gets that we live in a world that's so fast-paced and demanding.
Right.
Finding that time, that space for stillness can seem impossible.
Yeah, exactly. It's like everywhere you turn, there's messages telling us to be productive, achieve more, and it can feel overwhelming just to even think about slowing down.
Well, and what's interesting is the speech actually gives a different perspective on this. It says that even just those small moments, those moments of awareness we talked about, can be enough.
You mean like those 10-second pauses?
Yeah, exactly. It's not about becoming some kind of, meditation master right away. It's more about working with where we are right now and making mindfulness something we can actually do.
Okay, that's a relief. I could definitely get behind that. But how do we actually make that happen? I mean, does the speech give any, specific advice on how to use those pauses well?
Yeah, it does. It suggests that just sitting quietly for 10 minutes without any plan can be really beneficial.
Okay.
The key is just to be present with whatever comes up, thoughts, feelings, sensations, all without judgment.
So it's not about clearing your mind or trying to achieve some kind of blissful state.
Not at all. It's like, watching the clouds drift by, just observing without getting attached or trying to control them.
Okay. I like that imagery.
Makes it a lot less intimidating and more like kind of gentle exploration.
Definitely. And, the speech talks about consistency being so important. As you do this, you'll probably start to see little shifts in your awareness.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, imagine someone cuts you off while you're driving. Instead of instantly getting angry, you find yourself pausing, taking a breath, and just watching those emotions without being swept away.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that would be huge.
Right. It's like gaining that extra space to actually choose how to respond instead of just going on autopilot.
That's the power of being aware, huh? It helps us to be less reactive and more deliberate with our actions.
Exactly. And the speech also suggests that being more aware can help us better understand other people's emotions too.
Okay, so instead of taking everything personally, we can actually try to see things from their point of view and understand why they might be acting the way they are.
Right, like imagine you have a coworker who's, I don't know, always snapping at everyone.
Yeah.
With a little more awareness, you might realize their behavior isn't about you, but it's more about their own, internal struggles.
That's so much more understanding. It's compassionate. I love that.
It can really change our relationships. When we cultivate this awareness, we start to break down those walls that we've built, the ones that prevent real connection.
It's like we're getting rid of all that ego, the defensiveness that keeps us isolated, right?
Yeah. And then as those layers peel away, we naturally start feeling a deeper sense of belonging, of connection.
It makes me think of that saying, we're all just walking each other home.
Yeah.
By being aware, we acknowledge that we're all human. We're not as separate as we think.
Beautiful way to put it.
Yeah.
And the speech, it goes even further, saying that as we connect with that true self within us, we naturally become more giving, more compassionate.
So it's not about becoming self-absorbed or detaching from the world.
Not at all. The speech is saying that true awareness leads to a real engagement with life, not withdrawing, but connecting with it from a place of understanding and compassion.
So it's less about what can I get and more like what can I give?
Yeah, I love that. And the speech uses this beautiful analogy to show this shift. It talks about a garden.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
It talks about our inner world as being like a garden filled with all these different flowers. Each one, beautiful in its own way, with its own needs.
And instead of trying to control everything, the speech is saying we can just create the conditions for those flowers to flourish.
Exactly. So we don't force ourselves to be a certain way.
Right.
We just provide what they need to bloom naturally. The nourishment, the sunlight, the space.
It's like a garden has different seasons, so we go through those periods too: growth, dormancy, decay. It's all part of it.
It's a natural cycle, and fighting against it only creates suffering.
So the key is to just approach each phase with acceptance and awareness, seeing the beauty and lessons in every stage. It's about the whole journey, not just the end result.
Absolutely. And I think that's what this whole idea of awareness is really about. It's not about, becoming enlightened or perfect, but about just showing up for each moment exactly as it is and letting ourselves experience the richness of life itself.
Wow, that's beautifully put. It's about shifting that focus from what's outside to what's inside. Realizing that true happiness isn't about possessions or achievements or what other people think.
It's about cultivating that inner awareness that lets us experience life more fully, more deeply, and connect with who we truly are.
It's a powerful message and such a good reminder that the most important journey is the one within.
And the speech doesn't just stop at those abstract ideas. It gives us some practical tools that can help us cultivate this inner awareness and actually use it in our daily lives.
I'm all ears. What kind of tools does it talk about?
Well, one of the most powerful ones it highlights is gratitude. It really stresses how important it is to take time each day to appreciate the good things we have, even the small things we often take for granted.
Yeah, focusing on what we're grateful for can definitely change our perspective and help us appreciate the present moment more fully. But to be honest, sometimes gratitude can be hard, especially when things are tough.
I get it. A lot of people feel that way.
Do you have any advice on how to practice gratitude when you're struggling?
The speech actually talks about this directly. It says to try shifting our focus from what we lack to what we already have.
So instead of dwelling on what's missing, we focus on the abundance that's already present in our lives.
Exactly. Even when things are hard, there are always things to be thankful for.
Right.
It might be simple things, like a warm bed, a roof over our heads, the people who love us.
Yeah, I like that. A good reminder that even when things feel difficult, there's always something to appreciate. But what about when we're really going through it, like facing a major loss or a time of intense grief? Can gratitude really help then?
That's a really important point. The speech doesn't say gratitude is a cure-all, or that we should force ourselves to feel grateful when we're hurting. It's more about recognizing that even in dark times, there can be glimmers of light, those moments of beauty and connection that can help us through.
So it's not about denying our difficult emotions, but about finding those little sparks of hope and gratitude that can help us get through them.
Yes, and the speech is reminding us that practicing gratitude doesn't mean pretending everything's perfect. It's about choosing to focus our attention on the good, even when things are hard.
So we're making a choice about where we put our energy, where we focus our attention.
Yeah, instead of dwelling on the negative, we can actively look for the good, even if it's just a tiny spark.
Yeah, like we're training our minds to see abundance instead of lack. I'm seeing how this gratitude thing could really make a difference in how we feel overall.
It can, absolutely. And what's interesting is that the speech talks about gratitude not just as something we feel inside. It also emphasizes sharing that gratitude with others.
So it's not just about feeling grateful, it's about expressing it to the people we care about.
Exactly. It says that telling people how much we appreciate them not only makes our relationship stronger, but it also creates this ripple effect of positivity in the world.
I get that. When someone expresses gratitude to us, it feels good, and then we want to do the same for others.
Right, it's like this upward spiral. And expressing gratitude doesn't have to be this big thing. It could just be a heartfelt thank you or a small act of kindness.
Okay, I like that. Makes it feel much more doable.
And as we're talking about these tools for building awareness, there's another practice the speech mentions that I find really powerful. Forgiveness.
Forgiveness? Yeah, that's a big one. I've struggled with that myself. It can be so hard to let go of anger and resentment, especially when we feel like someone has really hurt us.
I hear you. Forgiveness is definitely not easy.
Yeah.
The speech acknowledges that it can be a really tough process, but why is it so important? What does forgiveness have to do with being aware and finding inner peace? Well, the speech says that holding on to anger, resentment, it's like carrying a heavy weight.
Yeah.
It weighs us down, drains our energy, and prevents us from experiencing real joy, real peace.
So it's not even about the other person so much, it's about freeing ourselves from those negative feelings.
Exactly. The speech makes it clear that forgiveness isn't about condoning bad behavior. It's about choosing to release ourselves from the pain of the past so we can move forward more lightly, more freely.
Okay, that's a helpful distinction. But how do we actually start forgiving, especially when the hurt is deep? Does the speech give any guidance on that?
Yeah, it does. It suggests that forgiveness begins with understanding. Trying to see the situation from the other person's point of view.
Okay.
Recognizing that they might have been acting out of their own pain or limitations.
So it's about having empathy and compassion even for those who have hurt us.
Exactly. And the speech also talks about the importance of being kind to ourselves, having self-compassion. It reminds us that everyone makes mistakes. That holding on to anger and resentment towards ourselves is just as damaging as holding it towards others.
Yeah, it's easy to be hard on ourselves, especially when we feel like we messed up.
It is. But the speech invites us to treat ourselves with the same kindness and understanding we'd offer to a friend. It's about remembering that we're all works in progress, and mistakes are just part of being human.
Yeah, that's a good reminder. It makes forgiveness feel more approachable. Like it's about understanding compassion, self-acceptance, rather than some big heroic act of letting go.
Right, exactly. And it's interesting because the speech doesn't just talk about forgiving specific people. It also encourages us to forgive ourselves for our own past mistakes, and even to forgive life itself for the challenges we've faced.
Okay, that's deep. It's like we're extending that compassion and understanding to the bigger picture, acknowledging that life isn't always fair or easy, but choosing to embrace it anyway.
Yeah, and the speech suggests that kind of radical forgiveness can be incredibly freeing. It breaks the chains of the past and lets us step more fully into the present moment.
Like we're shedding all that resentment, all that regret that's been holding us back, opening ourselves to a whole new level of peace and possibility.
Yeah, that's a beautiful way to put it.
Yeah.
As we're talking about these practices of gratitude and forgiveness, I'm struck by how they both seem to involve a shift in perspective.
Right. It's like we're choosing to focus on the good, the beautiful, the lessons learned, rather than getting stuck in the negativity and the pain.
And that's a powerful reminder that we always have a choice in how we see the world. We can dwell on the negative, or we can actively seek out the positive.
And those choices ultimately shape how we experience life, right?
Absolutely. It's not about pretending everything's perfect, but about choosing to approach life with an open heart, a willingness to see the good even when things are tough.
So well said. And as we're talking about these choices, there's another tool the speech mentions that can help us build awareness and navigate all of life's ups and downs. The power of conscious intention. Conscious intention. Okay, tell me more about that.
The speech suggests that our thoughts and beliefs, they really have a big impact on our reality. It's like we're constantly creating our world with our minds.
That reminds me of that saying, what you focus on expands.
Exactly. And the speech encourages us to become more aware of the thoughts we're thinking, the beliefs we're holding, because they're shaping our experiences.
So it's not just about observing our thoughts passively, but about actually choosing the thoughts and beliefs we want to cultivate.
Exactly. It's about taking ownership of our inner world and consciously directing our thoughts towards what we want to create.
That sounds incredibly empowering, but also a little daunting, to be honest. Like, how do we even begin to control our thoughts? They seem to have a mind of their own sometimes.
I know, it's a common experience, and the speech acknowledges that our minds can be, a bit like wild monkeys, jumping all over the place.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
But it also reminds us that we do have the power to tame those monkeys.
Okay, so how do we do that? Does the speech offer any practical tips for taming our wild monkey minds?
Yeah, one of the most powerful techniques it suggests is the practice of affirmations.
Affirmations, I've heard of those, but I've always been kind of skeptical. They seem a little too simple, just repeating positive phrases.
Yeah, I understand the skepticism, but the speech explains that affirmations are more than just positive thinking. It's about consciously choosing the thoughts we want to plant in our subconscious minds.
So replacing those negative or limiting beliefs with ones that are more positive and empowering.
Exactly. And the speech stresses the importance of choosing affirmations that truly resonate with you, statements that you genuinely believe in or want to believe in.
Right, so it's not about trying to convince ourselves of something we don't really believe, but about choosing thoughts that align with our values and what we want to achieve in life. But how do affirmations actually work? Is there any scientific evidence to support their effectiveness?
There actually is a growing body of research that suggests affirmations can positively impact our brains and behaviors. Studies have shown that repeating affirmations can activate areas of the brain associated with self-regulation and reward, which can help us develop more positive self-perceptions and make healthier choices.
That's fascinating. So there's an actual neurological basis for how affirmations can create positive change. It's not just wishful thinking.
Exactly. And the speech suggests that affirmations are even more effective when we combine them with visualization.
Visualization, so creating a mental picture of ourselves achieving our goals or living the life we desire.
Yes, exactly. The speech explains that our brains often have difficulty distinguishing between what's real and what's imagined. So when we vividly visualize ourselves achieving our goals, we're actually creating new neural pathways that make it more likely we'll take the actions needed to make those visions a reality.
That's amazing. So by combining affirmations with visualization, we're essentially programming our minds for success.
You could put it that way. And what's interesting is that the speech doesn't limit conscious intention to achieving external goals.
Right.
It also emphasizes setting intentions for our inner world.
Okay, so instead of just focusing on what we want to achieve outwardly, we can also set intentions for how we want to feel, how we want to be in our relationships, how we want to contribute to the world.
Exactly. It's recognizing that our inner world is just as important as our outer world, and cultivating things like kindness, compassion, and inner peace can actually have a positive effect on the world around us.
I love that. True transformation begins within, right? And as we're discussing these practices, I'm seeing how they all connect to that central message of the speech, that we are not our thoughts, but the observer of them.
You're exactly right. Practices like gratitude, forgiveness, and affirmations help create that separation between us and our thoughts. They help us become more conscious creators of our own reality.
Yeah, the more we use these tools, the more we realize that we have the power to choose our thoughts, shape our beliefs, and really design a life that aligns with our deepest values and aspirations.
Beautifully said. And as we dive deeper into this idea of consciously creating our reality, the speech introduces another fascinating concept that I think is worth exploring. The power of synchronicity.
Synchronicity. Okay, tell me more about that.
The speech describes synchronicity as those meaningful coincidences that seem to pop up in our lives. Those moments when things just fall into place in a way that feels almost magical, like it was meant to be.
We've all had those moments, right? Like when you're thinking about someone and they suddenly call, or you unexpectedly run into someone you've been meaning to connect with.
Exactly. Those moments can feel so serendipitous, making us wonder if there's something more going on than just random chance.
Yeah, that's how I feel too when those synchronicities happen. It's like the universe is trying to tell me something. But what does the speech say about the role of synchronicity in our lives?
It suggests that synchronicities aren't just random events, but rather like signposts from the universe, guiding us towards our true path, our purpose. It's like the universe is working with us to help us align with our true selves and reach our full potential.
That's a beautiful and empowering way to think about it. But If synchronicities are these signposts from the universe, how do we know how to interpret them?
That's a great question. The speech emphasizes paying attention to our intuition, our inner guidance.
Okay.
It suggests that synchronicities often come with a feeling, sense of knowing or resonance that tells us we're on the right track.
So it's not just about noticing the external events, but also tuning into how those events make us feel.
Yeah, exactly. The speech is encouraging us to trust our gut feelings, follow those synchronicities that light us up, that spark joy, excitement, a sense of purpose.
That makes sense. It's like those synchronicities are invitations to step into our truest selves and embrace the path that's meant for us. But I have to admit, it can be hard to tell the difference between a real synchronicity and just a random coincidence. Any tips for figuring that out?
Well, the speech suggests that one key indicator is a sense of meaningfulness. It's like the event or encounter has a deeper meaning, a message or lesson that resonates with us on a soul level.
So it's not just about the coincidence itself, but the meaning we attach to it.
Exactly. The speech encourages us to really think about the synchronicities we experience and ask ourselves what messages or guidance they might be offering.
That's a really helpful tip. I think I'll start writing down the synchronicities I notice and reflect on what they might mean.
That's a great idea. And, the speech suggests that the more aware we become, the more synchronicities we tend to experience.
Oh, really? So it's like the more we tune into our inner world, the more we notice the synchronicities happening around us?
Exactly. The speech suggests that as we raise our consciousness and align with our true selves, we become more sensitive to those subtle cues and guidance from the universe.
Wow, that's beautiful. The more we awaken to our inner truth, the more the universe works to support us on our journey.
I love that. And, as we're talking about synchronicities and the universe supporting us, it makes me think about faith and trust and how important they are in navigating life's challenges.
Faith and trust. Okay, I'm interested to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, the speech doesn't use specifically religious language, but it does highlight the importance of believing in something bigger than ourselves.
Right.
Whether we call it the universe, a higher power, or just the wisdom of life.
So it's about having faith that we're not alone, that there's something greater guiding and supporting us.
Yes, and the speech suggests that this kind of faith isn't blind to belief, but a deep trust that comes from our own experiences, our own observations.
So it's not about blindly believing in something we don't understand, but about cultivating trust based on our own inner knowing and the synchronicities we experience.
Yes, you got it.
Yeah.
And the speech emphasizes that this trust is really important for handling life's ups and downs. When we trust that we're being guided and supported, even when things are tough, we can face those challenges with courage, resilience, and hope.
Makes sense. When we believe that everything happens for a reason, even the hard stuff, it can be easier to let go and trust that we're being led towards something better.
Absolutely. The speech acknowledges that holding on to faith and trust can be a lifelong practice, especially when we face adversity.
Right.
But the more we cultivate those qualities, the more we experience their power to change us for the better.
So it's like a muscle that gets stronger the more we use it.
Exactly. The more we practice faith and trust, the easier it becomes to find them when we need them most.
Yeah, I can see that. And the speech encourages us to cultivate faith and trust through practices like meditation, prayer, being in nature, and connecting with our inner guidance.
Those are all great ways to nurture that connection to something larger than ourselves. I think we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have. We've talked about gratitude, forgiveness, conscious intention, synchronicity, and the power of faith and trust. It's like we've been given this incredible toolkit for navigating life's journey with more awareness and wisdom.
Yeah. And what's beautiful is how the speech connects all these seemingly different ideas together, showing how they all work together to create a more holistic understanding of what it means to live a truly awakened life.
It's like we're starting to see the bigger picture now, how our inner world and outer world are connected, and how cultivating awareness can create a ripple effect of positivity that reaches far beyond ourselves.
That's a great way to put it. And this is a perfect place to pause for now. In the last part of our deep dive, we'll explore how the speech ties all of these threads together, offering a profound vision of what it means to live a truly awakened and fulfilling life.
Wow, we've gone deep into this speech, haven't we? Gratitude, forgiveness, conscious intention, synchronicity, even faith and trust.
It's a lot to take in.
Like, we've been handed this incredible toolkit for life.
It is, isn't it? A real treasure trove of wisdom. And what's amazing is how the speech manages to tie it all together, to paint this really clear picture of what it means to live a truly awakened life.
I agree. And it all comes back to that core message, right? The idea that we're not our thoughts, we're the observer of them. It's like a thread running through everything we've talked about.
It is. And when you can create that separation, that distance between yourself and your thoughts, it's liberating.
Right.
You're not constantly reacting to every little thing that pops into your head.
Like we're stepping back from the stage of our minds and becoming the audience, watching the play without getting caught up in the drama.
Perfect analogy.
Yeah.
And the speech goes even further. It doesn't just say observe your thoughts. It says observe your emotions, your body, even how you interact with the world around you.
So it's about a bigger kind of awareness, mindfulness that includes our whole being.
Exactly. It's about becoming more present, tuned in to what's happening both inside and out.
But how do we actually get there? It sounds great, but staying present in this crazy world with all its distractions can be really tough.
The speech acknowledges that, It says that cultivating awareness is a practice. It's not a finish line.
Okay.
It's like a muscle you got to keep working out.
So it's not about reaching some perfect state of constant awareness. It's about trying to be more present as we go through our day.
Yes. And it gives some good tips on how to do that.
Okay.
It says to make space for stillness, whether that's meditation, being in nature, even just pausing for a few moments to breathe.
I like that. It's not about adding more things to our to-do list.
Right.
It's about finding ways to just be present right in the middle of our busy lives.
Exactly. And it even suggests we can build that awareness through everyday things like paying attention to how it feels to eat, walk, even wash the dishes.
So bringing mindfulness to those things we usually do without even thinking.
It's about waking up from that autopilot mode and really experiencing whatever's happening in that moment, no matter what you're doing.
Makes you appreciate those little things more. And this idea of being present, it reminds me of another big theme from the speech: acceptance.
Yeah, acceptance. That's a tough one.
It is, especially when things are hard. It's natural to resist what's happening, to wish things were different, But what does the speech say about accepting things as they are and how that helps us find peace?
It says acceptance isn't about giving up.
Okay.
It's about seeing clearly what is, without judgment.
Okay.
It's recognizing that life has its own way, and sometimes things happen that we can't control.
So letting go of that need to control everything, just surrendering to how things are.
And the speech makes it clear, accepting doesn't mean we have to like what's happening.
Right.
It just means we're choosing to face reality with an open heart, rather than fighting against it.
It's like when we resist, we create more suffering.
Exactly.
But when we accept, there's a chance to find peace, even when things are tough.
And you know what's interesting? The speech links acceptance to this idea of non-attachment.
Non-attachment. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm listening now.
It says a lot of our suffering comes from being attached to things being a certain way, clinging to outcomes, possessions, even our own identities.
So it's about recognizing that everything changes, nothing stays the same, and that holding on too tightly just creates more suffering.
Yes. The speech encourages us to let go, not in a cold way, but in a way that releases that need to control.
Right.
It's about letting things flow without grasping or resisting.
Sounds freeing, but also hard. I mean, we're human, right? We connect, we get attached. How do we even start to cultivate non-attachment?
The speech says we start by being mindful, noticing those attachments and how they cause us pain. It's about catching ourselves when we're clinging, whether it's to things, relationships, or even specific outcomes.
So we become aware of when we're holding on too tight and then gently remind ourselves to loosen our grip.
Exactly. And the speech is clear. Non-attachment isn't about ignoring our feelings or denying what we want.
Okay.
It's about recognizing that we can still experience joy, still feel fulfilled without needing to cling.
Appreciating the beauty without needing to own it, huh?
Beautifully put. And these ideas of acceptance, non-attachment, they make me think about living in alignment with our true selves.
Yeah, yes. That true self keeps coming up. But how do we actually connect with it? It often feels so out of reach.
Well, the speech reminds us that our true selves, it's not our thoughts, our emotions, even our personality. It's something deeper, beyond all those labels and conditioning we pick up along the way.
That pure, essential part of us connected to something bigger.
And the speech says connecting with our true selves, it's not about reaching some perfect state. It's
Yep.
about recognizing that we're already whole, already worthy, just as we are.
I love that. But how do we actually find that connection, that true self that often feels so hidden?
The speech suggests practices like mindfulness, meditation, being in nature, even creative activities that bring us joy.
So creating space for stillness, connection, and letting that true self emerge naturally.
And it's not a one-time thing, it's an ongoing journey of discovery.
Like we're peeling away layers, shedding those masks and revealing the real us bit by bit.
So beautifully put. And speaking of this journey, I can't help but think about purpose and its role in a truly fulfilling life.
Purpose. Yeah, what does the speech say about finding that?
It doesn't give us a formula, but it suggests our purpose isn't something we find out there in the world. It's about aligning with who we truly are, using our unique gifts, and contributing to the world in a way that feels right, that aligns with what we value.
So not about finding that one right path, but about discovering what makes us come alive and sharing that with the world.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be something huge.
Right.
It can be in our relationships, our work, our hobbies, even simple acts of kindness.
It takes the pressure off, right? It's like purpose can be found in those everyday moments.
And the speech says, as we connect with our true selves, as we live our purpose, we start to experience this sense of flow, of ease.
Flow and ease, I love those words. What exactly does the speech mean by that?
It describes flow as that feeling of effortless action, like when you're so absorbed in what you're doing that you lose track of time.
Right.
It's like riding a wave, moving with the current.
Sounds amazing. Any tips on how to tap into that?
The speech says it comes from aligning with our purpose, doing things that challenge us but don't overwhelm us,
Okay.
and being present, not attached to the outcome.
So finding that sweet spot where we're engaged but not stressed, challenged but not overwhelmed.
Exactly. And the speech emphasizes it's not about forcing things. It's about surrendering to the process, trusting your gut, and letting yourself be led by joy and inspiration.
Letting go of control and just going with the flow, trusting that we'll end up right where we're meant to be.
Beautiful. And, talking about flow and ease, it makes me think about playfulness and joy and how important they are for a truly awakened life.
I love those qualities. But honestly, they're often the first things to go when life gets crazy.
I get it, but the speech emphasizes making space for them, even when things are tough.
Okay, but why are playfulness and joy so important? How do they fit into this idea of awareness and living a fulfilling life?
The speech says they're not just frivolous things. They're essential qualities that connect us back to ourselves. They help us release stress, and they let us experience the lightness and wonder that life has to offer.
So being like a child again, embracing that spontaneity, that curiosity, that sense of wonder.
And the speech encourages us to find ways to bring those qualities into our everyday lives.
Right.
Whether it's through spending time with people we love, doing things we enjoy, or just taking a moment to appreciate the beauty around us.
It's a good reminder. It's easy to get so serious to forget to make time for those things that bring us joy. Maybe that's part of what it means to live an awakened life, remembering to play, embracing the lightness of being, and allowing ourselves to experience joy no matter what.
So beautifully said. And as we talk about playfulness, joy, lightness, it makes me think about love.
Love, that's a big one. What does the speech say about love?
It doesn't talk about love in a romantic sense. It talks about it as this fundamental force that connects everything, a force that connects us to ourselves, to each other, and to something greater.
Recognizing that we're all interconnected, part of this web of life, and love is the thread that holds it all together.
Yes, perfectly said. And the speech emphasizes that love is more than just a feeling, it's a way of being. It's about choosing to act with kindness, compassion, and understanding towards ourselves and everyone around us.
So making love a part of our thoughts, words, and actions.
Exactly. And as we cultivate love within ourselves, it naturally radiates outward, creating a ripple effect of positivity.
That's a powerful image. Like we're each a drop in this ocean of love, and as we connect to that source within, we contribute to the beauty of the whole.
I love that. As we've been talking about all of this awareness, acceptance, purpose, flow, joy, love, it seems like they're all pointing to a profound shift in consciousness.
A real awakening.
Yes. And what's so inspiring is that the speech makes it clear this awakening isn't some distant goal.
It's possible now.
It's about embracing who we are, letting our true selves shine.
Not becoming someone else or reaching some perfect state, but just allowing our natural radiance to come through.
And the speech reminds us that we're not alone in this. It's about helping each other on the journey, sharing our gifts, and creating a world that reflects the love and wisdom that we all carry inside.
What a beautiful message to end on. This deep dive has been so insightful, so thought-provoking. I feel like I have a whole new understanding of what it means to truly live an awakened life.
I'm so glad to hear that. And remember, this is just the beginning.
Right.
The journey of awakening continues. Always something new to learn, to experience, to share.
Absolutely. This speech has planted so many seeds, and I'm excited to see what grows as I nurture those seeds in my own life.
That's the beauty of it, the journey itself. Every step we take brings us closer to who we truly are.
This has been another fascinating deep dive. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to exploring more with you next time.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe so you can stay updated with our latest content. May they bring you mindfulness and warmth. Feel free to share the channel with friends. You never know how much it could uplift their life. Until next time.